Okay, we're gonna get started. As people come in, hopefully they'll make their way over to the food if they want some. I'm Graham Henshaw. Welcome to the hub. As I mentioned a second ago, if you have not done it yet, please pull out your phones, scan this QR code to check in. It's really helpful for us. It lets us know who you are and what you can engage with. We'll ask you questions about how we've done with programs and make them better. So your feedback really helps us. And for that, we'll award you some points. So everything that you can do at the hub that has a certain point value associated with it, those points will accrue over the course of the semester. And then you can redeem those points throughout the semester in our hacked snack machine that works off of points. And if you're at the top of the leaderboard at the end of the semester, you're getting invited to a lunch at President Rowe's house. Really, really awesome highlight of the semester. Every semester. So make sure you check in for that. And at the end of the event today, we'll do a giveaway. And it's based on who checked in here. So your odds are pretty good today if you scan this QR code of getting a pretty cool swag bag. So make sure to scan that QR code, check in, let us know that you are here. So I'm really excited to welcome Tim Ryan to the hub. Tim and I go way back actually. But I was thinking about this phrase that you often hear in sort of circles like this, a champion of the startup ecosystem. But Tim really is that. I think hour for hour, there are probably very few people, if there are any, that have put as much time into the startup ecosystem as Tim. And he's going to explain what that means. In particular, we're going to be talking about entrepreneurial support organizations. So be on the lookout for the definition for that, and specifically where those are around us in this region. Tim's the executive director of Innovate Hampton Roads. He's kind of at the center of the startup ecosystem of our region in that role. He connects people to founders and to mentors and to capital, everything that a lot of the people in this room are interested in. So glad to see you here. He's also an alum. He's an MBA alum from William & Mary. There are a number of other things that Tim is associated with as a function of his role at Innovate Hampton Roads, but I'm going to let him explain all of those things. But a couple things I think that are really interesting, and I didn't know actually until this week, was that he's the program director, I knew that, of Start Peninsula, which is the region's longest running business validation pitch competition. That was news to me. That's really cool. He's an active angel investor. He's invested in over 30 companies. Maybe he'll tell you a little bit more about that. He also co-hosts a show called the Fervent Tour Show. I think long ago, you guys actually interviewed me, like generations ago. Mike too. Be on the lookout for that. So today we're talking about how entrepreneurship is a team sport. I think there's this misconception of the solo founder in the garage. Hopefully Tim will dispel that myth for everybody here. And he'll point you to all the different resources that are around in this region. So stay alert for all the ways that these ESOs can help you do what you're trying to do. One fun fact about Tim is that he really likes to run. He's run an average of 6 miles every single day since 2014. Is that accurate? That's wild. Yeah. So a lot of times we talk about grit and perseverance. I think the Tim's picture is in the dictionary around that word. So please join me in welcoming Tim Ryan. Thanks, Tim.
Some of the underlying aspect of that running part, one, you want to be remembered. You're like, this is the dude that has run every day for the last 12 years. But really, and it comes down to like, it is that grit. It is like, if you do the hardest thing first thing in the morning, then the rest of your day is a whole lot easier. So like this morning, it was super cold. It was not really enjoyable. And I don't know if I necessarily love it, but I do the hard things first. I throw in a podcast. I just go out, I run, and I get ready for the day. And that's what I do. When you're on vacation, you're able to see things that you've never seen before. And it's a quickest way, funnest way to see things when you're traveling. Not so much when you're running at 1:30 in the morning because you got to catch a 6 o'clock flight. But yeah, it's just all about doing the hard things first. So what I wanted to, I'm going to talk about entrepreneurship, my journey along the way. Been doing this for a really, really long time. Let's just have a discussion about this, jump in and, yeah, I'll share with what I have learned. Everyone has a dream, yeah, like it is just over dramatized on television, Shark Tank. Everyone thinks that, you're gonna come up with this idea, you're gonna raise a ton of money, you're gonna ride off into the sunset and everything is gonna be great. I too had that dream when I graduated from William and Mary. I had my MBA and I was going to take on the world. And then I quickly realized that was not the case. So it is just, it's really, really difficult. In addition to that, I was at Booz Allen Hamilton doing government consulting work while going through the MBA program. And when I made that transition, I did not have a network whatsoever. So that was one of the very quick lessons there. So since with that, I graduated in 2011. We were the first class to go through Miller Hall from start to finish. I think before that, it was right across the street here at Blow Hall. Is Blow Hall still around?
Yeah. Administrative.
So yeah, we went through there. I graduated 2012. That's what my whole idea was like. There's a lot of really, really smart people out there that are good at their skill set, but they don't know how to put a business around it. So again, me being this freshly minted MBA from William & Mary, they set me up to learn everything I needed to learn. I was going to work with these early stage companies, and we were going to that dream picture. That was going to be us. But then I realized startups don't have any money whatsoever. So then I was like chasing how am I going to get paid? They're not getting paid. What do we do? So that was really difficult. I needed to be, and how I centered myself around all these founders was to get involved in Startup Peninsula. So that was something that started back in 2012. It's 14 years now. We just kicked off the 2026 season with that. And if you're interested in pitching an idea, startpeninsula.com or get in touch with me afterwards. But it is a place to validate your business idea. We have tons of success stories that have come out of there. And we still do that. But what I did during that time, and I continue to do, is I learned the pain points of the founders. So when they hit that brick wall, it's just like, I understand why they're doing that. And because I was exposed to so many founders, William and Mary at the same time, they did this study and they're like, Greater Williamsburg would really benefit from a regional business incubator. So James City County, York County, and the city of Williamsburg, they took that advice and they're like, we need to do this regional business incubator. So like since I knew the pain points of the startups, I was the guy that then created the Launchpad. And at the same time, that's when Graham was building version 1 of the Entrepreneurship Center. So we were both building that in tandem. And like at that time, it was a new town above Paulsville. And I really had to run when we were there because, boy, the food was great. That's where Mike and I met back in the day, but we had some really successful companies out of there. SVT Robotics was a company that was formed. They're in Norfolk. Last valuation that I saw with them was 125 million, but they continue to do, they're in the autonomous robotic space. Instant Teams, last I heard from them, they had 650 people working with them, and then Member Stack. They went through Y Combinator and raised some money, and they're doing really, really well. So we had some good companies that came out of the Launchpad. So it's super cool to be back here to see that everything is alive and well. It was really just to see the logo again. It was just like, wow. But that was awarded the best startup when we were there, startup incubator. Then 2019-ish, that's when everything started to shift over here right before COVID. But then I went to an organization called Startwheel. That is now Innovate Hampton Roads. We consolidated Startwheel and the Tech Council to create Innovate Hampton Roads. But really, it's just all about how do we centralize all of the efforts that are taking place within the entrepreneurial community. So it's just like me having that I just always want to find a better way of doing something. And we'll get into how this created what we created today. But that too was awarded the best startup activity quickly. During that time in 2018, I invited Jason Calacanis to come to Startup Peninsula. I'm a firm believer like you miss every shot that you don't take. So I reached out through Twitter on Twitter at the time to Jason, and I said, "Hey, we have this pitch competition called Startup Peninsula. We would love it if you would join us." And he showed up. Crazy that he was like, "Okay, we'll do it." It was a long time to make this happen. And if you don't know Jason, the joke is he was the third or fourth person to invest in Uber, first person to invest in Robinhood and Calm. So he came out, 7 companies pitched to him. He offered money to 5 of those companies. He took us out afterwards. This was a tech center in Newport News. He paid for all the founders all night. And then when I was taking him back to his hotel, he's like, "Tim, you have to invest. You have to, become an accredited investor and start investing in companies." And I took that to heart. And so in 2020, I then joined his syndicate and started investing in companies. And so today I've invested in 30 plus companies from the pre-seed stage. And it was even through William Mary alone was able to get into SpaceX a few years ago. So I'm eagerly watching that as all the IPO rumors continue to emerge from there. But the whole deal was that it's just trying to learn as much as I possibly could. I mean, so like all of a sudden being part of the syndicate, I would get all these deal memos, and the deal flow that Jason would get were just like crazy companies. So I'm just crazy good. So I'm just learning as much as I possibly can, participating when I can. During that time, the city of Hampton, they approached me and they're like, "Hey, would you lead Reactor?" If you haven't, I have a hard time saying no. And I always overextend myself. But the thing that I told the city of Hampton was like, "Hey, if you want me to do this, we cannot duplicate efforts here. Like, we have to leverage all of the programming that is in place, because I don't have the bandwidth to duplicate that kind of stuff." 2020, or just a few months ago, we were awarded a gold medal from an international best incubator type of thing. So I'm batting 3 for 3 in the last 3 things that I've done in terms of like what we're doing is working. In 2025, in 2024, we were approached by Pegasus Tech Ventures. And so the whole idea of Innovate Hampton Roads is, how do we educate people here locally what venture scale companies are, why they need to invest in them? Because if we do have an outlier company and if people miss out on a 1,000 or 4,000x return, I don't want them mad at me that they didn't have the opportunity to make money on that company. So educating people on what venture scale is, why they need to pay attention to it, and you should consider investing in those companies. Also, at the same time, teaching everybody outside of Hampton Roads, what is Hampton Roads? These are the companies that we have, and this is why you need to pay attention. Well, one of our initial signs of success was we're now receiving inbound communication from people, and Pegasus Tech Ventures is one of those people. They're like, "Hey, we've never done anything in Virginia before. We would love to come to Virginia. Would you be willing to host the Startup World Cup?" So we said yes. Year 1, we had 300 people attend. IV Watch, located in Newport News, they went on to win 3rd in the entire world. And with it, going into that, we were like, we can't do your traditional pitch competition. It can be really, really boring. It's just 10 companies line up, they pitch, there's a Q&A, it's done, everybody claps, and then you move on. Well, we're like the guy that I do, my co-partner in crime, Zach Miller, I was like, "Zach, what we need to do here is, what if we take a Savannah Bananas approach to a pitch competition? Let's just totally flip it upside down. And we have to just make it as exciting as we possibly can." And so that is what we did. We were just in between the 10 pitches that we want to be able to feature local companies that didn't quite meet the threshold to be on the big stage for the World Cup. So then they invited us back for the second time. So last year we had 742 or 744 people that attended. So it's growing because we want to make sure that people pay attention to what we have going on here. And we brought 757 Tech Night back. That is like the annual awards thing for the region, because we want everyone to understand this is who we are. These are the companies that we have. Then a couple of months ago, because I participate as much as I do with Jason's syndicate, I was asked to invited to be on the deal committee. So twice a month we meet on Zoom. All the founders that are looking to get funding from Jason's syndicate, they pitch to us. We have an opportunity to ask questions. The founder leaves the Zoom session, and then we talk about what do we like, what do we not like. Do we recommend this to go through for the syndicate to raise capital? So like, I'm just learning and learning and learning and like trying to figure out that what is the smartest way to do all this stuff. And I'm going to share with you what I've learned. But over that time, I've worked with thousands of founders, or I've heard from thousands of founders, and I've seen how things work and how they don't. So we have all heard this. Yeah, what if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. But the thing is, what if we can do both? And I'm trying to figure out like what we're doing is working, and we're able to do both of those things. So like, this is what I want to talk about in terms of that. I didn't really know it at the time. I was like, what is this ESO thing? I'm not a government type of, bureaucracy. This is something that I don't like. I don't like administrative stuff, but like unbeknownst to me, like what we were creating was like an ESO type of thing. And so it's an entrepreneur support organization, and so what is that? So there's the mentoring component, and there's training, and there's networking, and we help people get funded, introduce them to the people that they need to be introduced to. It can be government backed, it can be nonprofit. There's different flavors. So here are some different types of ESOs that you probably didn't realize what they were, but SBA, SCORE, they're all around here. EO, Entrepreneurs Organization. You have the Kauffman Foundation. They're really, really well known in terms of leading the charge with entrepreneurship. But then in terms of like the commercial side, Y Combinator, Techstars, and Launch are probably the most common accelerators. And so these are all just different types of flavors of ESOs. But like what we've done here locally is create, I don't know, I wouldn't go as far as saying like a mega ESO, but we've brought all of Hampton Roads together. When you think about the fact that this region is 1.7 million people, over 17 different cities, the whole point of Innovate Hampton Roads is like, how do we there's a better way of doing this. Too many people hit that brick wall, or they couldn't unlock the full potential. So it's just building a startup is like building a rocket ship. And it's just like, let's break this down and figure out how we can do this. So like, you have to have the vision. So you're building a rocket. You have to understand like, this is the trajectory we need to hit in order to reach orbit. And it's the same deal with your startup. What is the vision? What is the problem that you're trying to solve? What is the solution that you have that's solving that problem? How are we going to talk to who is our market? Who are we going to talk to? Understanding how to go about that. And you have to have that exhaustive planning up front. This just doesn't happen by accident. And by associating yourself with an ESO, you're not going to, you can try to plan all you want, but if you haven't figured it out yet, you're going to make wrong turns. You're going to make a lot of wrong turns. And if you're able to work with the support of people that have been there before and have done that before, I've seen this movie play out so many times. I will see the wrong turn long before they will see it. So you can navigate all the things that are about to happen. I mean, there's so many things like, why do you make when you bring on a co-founder, why do you have to make sure that you just don't give them equity on day one? There has to be a vesting period. You have to do it over a series of time. Like these are all things that unfortunately a lot of people have to learn the hard way. There's stage progression in a rocket ship, just like there is in a startup, you know, so you have one set of engines that get you off the launch pad, and then you have another set of engines that carry you through space. Same deal when it comes to this having a startup. You know, you might be pre-seed that's validating, and then you're going into into this seed stage or series A, but there's different stages. And I'll get into the different, so many people want it, they think that they're so smart and they think that they can skip steps, but you can't skip the steps. You have to get your reps in. You have to have a team. And like when you are associated with an ESO, you're extending that team so that, hey, this person's good at rocket engines, this person's good at navigation, this person's good at the software behind it. Everyone's got a specific part in building that rocket ship, just like you do when it comes to building a startup. You have to have that diverse team to execute. And the thing is that when you're building a rocket, millions of things have to go right. But if one thing goes wrong, the mission is not going to, it could be detrimental to the mission. It could explode on the launch pad. Same deal when it comes to a startup. When 90% of startups fail, we want to avoid that. Well, we want to reduce that number as low as we possibly can. So if you surround yourself with the people that you need to be surrounded with, we want to reduce that number as much as we possibly can. So that is the benefit, also a benefit of an ESO. So like, what have we been able to do within Hampton Roads, and how do we reduce that number from 90%? So like, the first thing you gotta do is you gotta validate your idea. Is this something that is worth pursuing? So when you take advantage of a rocket pitch next Friday or Star Peninsula, you're validating that idea. You're not quitting your job. You're not maxing out credit cards. Let's find out that this idea is worth pursuing. And then once you get some initial validation, then we can go to the next step where we can incubate that. That could be the launch pad. It could be reactor, but like, let's work on how do you get those first customers? How do you incorporate as a business? How do you work on that MVP? So we're working you, guiding you through all these, preparing you for acceleration. Then we have like 757 Accelerate or Lighthouse Network. It's gearing you up for that investment. It's helping you become investable. So before you go to a typical accelerator, they may give you $100,000 for 7% of your company, but it's an intense 12-week period that when you're done, there's a demo day. You typically will pitch to a bunch of investors, and then you, hopefully, if you did it right, you'll raise some money and you'll get some funding. Around here locally, when it comes to raising that capital, like the people that we want to talk to is like the IPC, Virginia Innovation Partnership Corporation, or 757 Angels. There's many around this area. Richmond, there's a lot of, and I hesitate to even show all the different angel groups that are there because you guys are smart and you're like, I'm going to contact these people. It's not the time. We got to take the steps in order to get there. So like, that's a whole class within itself. How do you identify the right investor? And every investor has a different thesis. Everyone has a different check size. Everyone has a different stage that they invest in. And you need to make sure that you fit within those categories. Otherwise, you're just wasting that investor's time because you're going to get a no, you're going to get discouraged, you're going to get angry, and you're going to quit. But when you go through all these steps, we know these different theses that the investors have. So we make sure that we introduce you to the right person at the right time that meets what they're looking for in accordance with the stage that you are, so that we can increase that success. And then we grow. In terms of with that, you have built-in support with that every time along with each stage. And then one of the things that I really like in this too, and if you think about it, if you watch what the Olympics are getting ready to start, right? There's so much dead time in between events with the Olympics. And like, you see all these backstories, and the same deal, like if you watch American Idol or any of these talent shows, half of it is all backstories. It's all the storytelling points of view of like, this is who this person is, and this is how they started, and there's a story arc behind all this. And then by the end of the competition, you're like, I love this person, I want them to win. Well, it's like, this is what we're trying to do here. We're creating this story arc. So like on the Innovate Hampton Road side, we're tracking all of these companies. We're building that story arc with them, and we're putting together that chessboard so that we can make these companies, they know who these people are. So that way, when it comes to raising money, these founders already know. They're like, yeah, I've been following them from the very beginning. We're good. Yeah, it helps with the due diligence. There's no such thing as a cold email at that point. So like, why this matters, each stage is really, really critical. So I jumped ahead a little bit, but like, you can't skip the steps. You have to do things at the right time. And there really is no shortcuts. I tell everyone all the time that you can't take the elevator to the top, you have to take the stairs. You have to go out there every day. You can't just run a marathon on day one. You've got to incrementally work your way up to that point. And so learn the things that you need to learn in order to move faster. And as I said, you're building your network all at the same time. So like your VIPC, for example, they have 3 different funding mechanisms within their organization. If they invest in you the first time, they do that with intention that they're going to invest in you the second time and the third time as you continue to grow. We want to tell that story with you all the way through. And by you going through this, our ESO that we have created, you're doing the exact same thing. So like the audience just continues to be bigger and bigger and bigger. In terms of like another analogy that I use, and it fascinates me, like Nashville is just known to be Music City. And it's like, but if you really look at it, I mean, like it's a machine. And like you go there and you start working, like you may start singing at like 10 a.m. on a Sunday at this place, at one bar. And then over time, you work your way to the more popular sets. And then if you get a break and you're able to go on the road, then you're opening and you're that performer that's opening in front of 25 people. And then because you have to learn everything to go out on the road. And then you might be the second person. You can't start being a headliner. You have to learn all of these little things. So like what we're doing here from the startup standpoint is exactly the same thing. We're prepping all of these people for the right time. We make the introductions when the time is right. And it's just like the time to contact a banker or an investor, you need to do that years before you need that person. If you reach out to someone saying, hey, I need this now, it doesn't work that way. So we will prepare you for those introductions at the right time. It eliminates the whole cold email aspect. It makes me crazy when founders are like, hey, I got a meeting with an investor. And it's like, okay, cool. And then like, that's a win for them and you need to celebrate that win. But I'm like, hey, okay, going back, what is their investment thesis? What stage do they typically invest in? What is their typical check size? When, where are they are they at the beginning of their fund or at the end of the fund? Do they have capital to deploy? These are all things that you need to understand. And they're like, oh, I don't know. And then like, we have a way that you set up all these investor meetings and there's a process with that. And then if you can get a warm intro or a hot intro, on my way here today, I was on a call with one of our portfolio companies in VIPC. And like, when we're all in this together, like, hey, they know, VIPC knows that if one of our companies puts in an application, they don't look for reasons to say no. They look for reasons of like, how can we make this work? Because we know what they're looking for. They know that we wouldn't submit something unless it met the criteria that they have. And so everything just moves a lot smoother, reduces unnecessary duplication. There's so much, like that is the thing that I try to eliminate as much as possible. I don't want to get started on that because that's a whole nother thing. But the great thing is about Virginia is like, Hampton Roads has their own ESO, and Richmond has theirs, Charlottesville has theirs. We all talk to one another. Once every other month, we all get on the phone and we talk about, hey, this is what we need. This is what we're looking for. Does anyone know this person with this particular skill set? So, and we all work together from that standpoint. So we eliminate the duplication there. One of the things is I am very, very founder first. Like, you are our customer. And so like, I realized that like, I am only as successful as the founders that we're working with. And it is never about me. It is always about those founders. And it's growth through storytelling. It is your story that we are sharing. And like the state, Virginia, they ask us, what do you, no one else is doing what you're doing. How do you do this? And so like, there's a lot of people that pay attention to things that we have going on because no one is able to duplicate that. It's just like, because we spend time with founders, we understand what their pain points are. We don't just buy something off the shelf and try to implement that. We understand what your pain points are and we solve those. Whisper networks. So like, a lot of times if I'm talking to Graham or if I'm talking to another investor, I'm like, hey, have you heard of this company? They're going to be getting ready to raise. The thing that makes Silicon Valley is sharing of the deal flow. They need to understand, that you share who the people are on your radar, opportunities to win. I mentioned I was fortunate enough to participate in SpaceX. That all happened because of sharing of the deal flow. I never thought in a million years that would happen. But like, when it comes to a Whisper network, we're behind the scenes, we're doing all of this and sharing everything. And that is a big part of what we've been trying to implement here within the region. So everybody wins. I mean, it's just a win for one is a win for all. My crazy goal that I have for Innovate Hampton Roads, I want to create a unicorn on each of the 7 cities. And if we can have 7 unicorns, and if one of those goes public, it will change the landscape of this region forever. Because the amount of wealth that will be created, the number of jobs that will be created, it will change everything. So that is my goal. I want everyone to win. And it's about community building. That is what brings joy. You got to get your reps in. And then again, you can't take the elevator to the top. You have to sit down and work with the people that we've talked about every step along the way to get where you need to be. And some of the results that we have had is the national and state interest. So I touched on Pegasus Tech Ventures. Like last year, we had 742 people that showed up at the World Cup. Like, this is crazy, y'all. We snuck in the ODU marching band. We brought them in. And so like everything went dark. And then the band we flipped the pitch competition upside down. Like Pegasus, like they called back, they're like, this is our playbook. This is what we have to do. And we had like the Norfolk Tides mascot come out and throw the first pitch, and we brought kids out from up on stage and they caught the first pitch, just really trying to have fun. I mean, with everything, but that is the standard. And we're up to it's 40 something million dollars and deal flow has happened from the Startup World Cup. But JP Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo, I mean, they're now interested. They're like, we've never paid attention to this market before. We have to pay attention. So when we brought back Tech Night, JP Morgan Chase, they were the presenting sponsor. I touched on the fact that VIPC, they're like, what are you guys doing? We are like, and this is just, we had all these pieces in place. It was just putting them together into that ESO type of format so that everybody could be brought together. Next level events, I touched on the World Cup and Tech Night. Like, it's just, we had 400 and some people that were at Tech Night, but it was the first time that all of these founders were together. So we had like Entrepreneur of the Year, Startup to Watch. We have 9 different categories to recognize and celebrate the different wins that we've had. And that has created a newfound enthusiasm. Like people are really, really excited about the things that we have that are going on. And like with that, we are now, I mentioned the chessboard. We're bringing out the IHR 200. We're compiling a list of the top 200 startups in the region so that we know who these people are, what vertical that they're in, what stage are they in. So that way, as we continue to get all of this inbound traffic and people are looking to, for opportunity, we know who the players are and we can follow them through the processes. So like, then we have an idea of, hey, who do we bring on the podcast next? It's like, oh, this company is doing this. And then we just continue to build along that journey. But like, that is an ESO in action in terms of what it is that we do. I would love to connect with you. Those are my handles on X and LinkedIn. That is how to get in touch with us from the social side. But whatever questions that you guys have, I share everything. There's no secrets from my point of view, but it's a fun journey, and I'm looking forward to what's next.
Can you grab? The box mic. Oh, mic. You get to be the first person to ask a question too, since you're touching it. Or you could throw it.
So you throw that and then the person has to ask a question.
Well, it's a microphone.
Well, you don't want me to throw it.
Well,
Because I'll kill
I'm
you.
just really, if you have to, I can filibuster if you need to come up with a question.
Go ahead.
But like, one of the things that was the whole thing, like when I was on the deal committee, with the syndicate, like this is like, talking about out of my comfort zone, like they will just randomly call on you and ask for your input on these companies. And I'm like, you've got to pay attention. And I'm just thinking, I was like, man, I can't sound stupid. Like I've got to ask something relatively, I don't want to make a fool of myself. So they call on me, and then next thing you know, Jason jumps on. He's like, I'll take that question. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't even believe that it just went there. But thankfully it was a decent question. But
So how many businesses do you think are going to get created because of AI?
dude, the crazy thing is how many businesses are going to be created with one or two founders that are going to hit the unicorn mark. I mean, like that's to me is the crazy thing. But I think that, yeah, I'm not a doomsday person. I'm super optimistic for AI.
Do you think, well, first of all, thanks for coming. Really appreciate the sort of overview of the whole landscape. Could you talk about, to anchor some of the sort of proof points, a venture that you recall from like earliest conversations, they were on the far end of the spectrum, just napkin sketch, that has then sort of matriculated through. And I don't know if that's maybe SVA or somebody else.
Yeah.
And just kind of talk about the journey that they were on.
Well, it's interesting. So the call that I was on the way up here was with a company called Psionic. And they first were introduced to VIBC several years ago. And they were like still trying to figure it out. And then, so a lesson learned here is when you have it, keep those relationships warm, because as you have the grit and determination and you kind of find your way, what happened with Psionic was like, they didn't have product market fit. And they continued to work at it and work at it and work at it. And then finally I was like, hey, VIPC, you need to talk to Psionic, because like what they do is it's alternative navigation. So that like, this is how you land spacecraft on the dark side of the moon. And this is how, and this is navigation that can't be detected, jammed, or spoofed. So like as autonomous vehicles become really more and more prominent, you need to make sure that that is safe as well. But so they found their product market fit, and like they're getting ready to raise their Series B now, and like now it's like, how do we still fit VIPC in to be part of this? Because that is part of the bigger story about Virginia. And so one example, just in terms of like how, they just continue to grind through it. It was one person that had an idea. There were 62 people, right now, but even, Member Stack, the guy, they're William and Mary alums. They first started there at the Launchpad. You just knew that something special was going to come out of those guys. And they would just be doing their hacking at night. And I'm running and I'm listening to, This Week in Startups. And then one of the guests on the show mentions Member Stack. And I'm like, is this the same company that was like out of the launch pad? And I was like, just totally bananas that was them. Like that if you have a subscription-based service and you want to be able to put that on a website, that's what MemberStack does. And so like they've got a ton of residual recurring revenue that hits them all the time. There's so many. It's
Yeah,
great.
lots of stories.
Hi, Tim, can you tell us a little bit more about Innovate Hampton Roads? Like, is it like, do we have to pay a fee or you have to pay us or what is it? Yeah.
No, so we're a local nonprofit, that it's free for the founders, to be part of. What we do is we have, and again, so going back to like solving the pain points of the founders, everything started with just a consolidated calendar. We have 17 localities. We have all the amazing universities. All these people were doing individual stovepipe efforts about entrepreneurship. Nobody knew what was going on. So we're like, what if we just started with a calendar to know all the different events that were happening? And we now have like 150 events on the calendar that happen. So then we're like, what if we add news? Let's add news. So anytime that there's opportunities to for investment, like if there's a pitch competition or whenever there's a press release or a new company has done something, let's share that news. And then we put that out into a newsletter. And then the newsletter got so big that we now do on Mondays, we send out, here's all the events of the week that you should attend. And then we cap off the end of the week with our Friday newsletter about here's the news stories that you should pay attention to. Then COVID happened. We added the Fervent Four show, which is the podcast that we do. But and now we do our three marquee events, which is we're getting ready to do the State of Innovation address. That'll be April 1st. We're just going to do a high level of what's happening here, and then Tech Night and the Startup World Cup. But send me your information, we'll get you plugged in, but then you're in. Like once you're in, and then you're just part of the family. And the whole idea is just to consolidate the efforts and set up that chessboard that we talked about so that we can push people through and find success.
Yep.
But then, yeah, corporate sponsors is the die is being cast. It's
I don't know.
We have
your revenue from somebody else.
yeah, we have a curated audience at that point. So like bank, lawyer, whatever is like, we have thousands and thousands of people in our network. So it's like, if one company raises $10 million and they have to put that money into a bank somewhere, that the bank should partner with us.
Oh, I see.
But we do fee for service work too. So managing the reactor for the city of Hampton, yeah, that's an income, a revenue generator for us. But we don't take any equity or anything from the founders.
Okay, so I have a question. I'm an international student in Ulm. So my question is very generic. So to become an entrepreneur here, would you say that is it difficult for international persons to start a startup compared to a Mali person?
Yeah. The thing that I tell so many people, I say this about once a day. The thing that I love about this region, about Hampton Roads, this is the biggest small town that you'll ever be part of. Everybody knows everybody. So from that standpoint, the degrees of separation is very, very small. You can get a meeting with anybody that you want to. Like, I'm always amazed at people that move here from out of the area. They're like, you all are really, really nice. And it's so easy to get a meeting. And so we're just really helpful. I don't know if it's a Southern charm type of thing or I don't know, but from that standpoint, You just have to show up, get involved, and you'll be amazed at how many people would that want to help you. So to me, I think that it is an easy place to get involved, as opposed to, and I always laugh when people are like, this place sucks. I'm going to San Francisco. I'm like, dude, if you can't make it here, you are not gonna make it in San Francisco. It's just, or yeah, in the valley, you're just not gonna make it. You can be a big fish in a small pond here.
Hi, I'm also an international student as well. But my question, in the beginning, your bio says something about, you, course, you attended, the business school, you did your MBA as well. So my question, basically is when you were in the business school, did you always know that you wanted to do entrepreneurship? And, how did your experience in the business school impacted your journey right now?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So I mentioned I worked for a defense consulting firm, and I was in the IT side of there, and like they wanted to continue to push me more and more narrow. And I don't know, maybe me being who I am, I wanted to go wider, and so they wanted me to like my answer to their request when it came to going to grad school was, well, I'm gonna get my MBA. But then going through William and Mary and getting my get through business school was like, I then gained the confidence that I was like, man, I can totally do this. Like that. And so that was the big driver for me. And I knew that, another lesson learned was my wife and I, we sat down, we're like, we need to make sure that our personal financial model works, because once I leave, I don't know when I'm going to get paid again, if I'm going to get paid again. So let's make sure that financial model works. Once we prove that model out, that's when I graduated, I resigned, but it gave me the confidence that I needed in order to start the business. And yeah, it's worked out. Yes.
I have a question. So if a student, I'm trying to understand the flow between the different pieces between validate, incubate, accelerate. A student or a regional entrepreneur who starts with a pitch competition here to validate their idea, moves to the launch pad, then moves to accelerate. How smooth is that process flow, moving people from one of the organizations to the other? Like, is there someone who has some oversight helping the entrepreneur make all of those introductions, or is the entrepreneur themselves trying to figure out?
That's a lot of what I do. I do so much connecting of people. But that has been, truthfully, that has been the hardest part about my journey, was like establishing trust amongst the different organizations and places. Like my whole thing is like, if we can make this pie bigger, then everyone's slice becomes larger. I'm not trying to take anything away from you. We're trying to build. And so I spend so much of my day building and establishing trust. And it starts by talking, but then also through action. So I facilitate that, but then at the end of the day, it's like those conversations happen. So it should be, but if not, then the founder's educated, and then they can find their way as well. So it's worked pretty good.
What's your favorite sector right now?
Well, I mean, AI is everything right now, but it's just moving so fast that it's like, it's exciting, but like what happens today is outdated tomorrow. So, but I do think that we live in super exciting times right now. I mean, it's just like, we're experiencing things that it's changing humanity forever. And like this region is changing humanity forever. I used to invest, most of my investments are in IT, in the tech space, and was a lot of SaaS, but like software as a service is, AI has really disrupted that quite a bit. And a lot of the SaaS companies they're incorporating AI into what they're doing so that they can remain relevant. But anything that is scalable, that can reach and make humanity better at scale is something that excites me.
For starters, thanks for coming to talk. It's been great listening to you. I'm a MBA student as well right now. So I saw the point that you made about growth through storytelling. And I was wondering if you could address that a little bit more, how Innovate Hampton Roads helps with that, with businesses telling their stories to help with their growth, or just in general, how you see storytelling as a way to help these businesses grow.
Yeah, so we do a few different ways. We do our news article. We push out at least three stories a week that are founder stories. And we have a story arc that we will follow. And if like you pay attention to Hollywood and the movies, it's like it's the same deal, challenge, fighting the challenge, you win the challenge, you're right off into the sunset kind of thing. And as founders, you're going to face many, many challenges, and there's going to be a lot of crucible moments that you're going to have to overcome. So we do that through news articles, but we also have a micro documentary series called Disrupting the Tide that we'll go out and we'll shoot. We'll do like 10-20 minute mini documentaries on these companies. And then we push those. We publish those on our website and our YouTube channel. And then with the Fervent 4 show, it's 1 hour every Thursday that we sit down and talk to the founders so that they can share their story, who they are, what they're doing, why they're doing it, the problem that they're solving. So we go about it in all those different ways. So audio, video, and written form, and just really putting a human touch on the business side of what's being done. Because stories sell, numbers tell, but it's not selling a story for the sake of selling it. It's just like, these are real people that are putting everything they have into these businesses.
All right, I think we're gonna cap it there. Even though there's a couple more minutes, there might be some of you who have questions you still want to ask. But maybe you want to also meet Tim. So I want to make sure that we leave some space and time for that. Make sure that you do introduce yourself. And you can find out, obviously, ways to connect with Tim there. But connect with him here before you leave. Say hello. So he has a face to the name. And then follow up with them after that. But join me in thanking Tim for getting us. All right, last but not least, we do have that special giveaway, so I'm going to sneak behind you for a second. Flip the screen. And the winner is Tim. No, we're the winner because you were here. Am I being tricked? Am I being punked? Brandon, I guess you get to declare who the winner is.
Yeah, so the winner for our giveaway is Joseph Boston. All right.
We have a gift for you too, Tim, so don't leave without it. Thanks everyone for being here. If you have not checked in, if you're like, what in the world is that? Just make sure you do that before you leave so we know you were here. Thanks very much. Stick around, eat some more food. Take care.